Hello there, Matthew here. Wanted to go over a few different cool things about cymbals. What kind of cymbals I use, what are the kind of cymbals that I find that I thought that were really good that I've used before, and other different types of cymbals. So we'll start off from I would categorize cymbals in 4 groups. One is like very beginner, then intermediate, professional, and then the golden era of cymbals. We'll discuss that later. So let's start with like the first one, beginner. That's stuff that you would get like with like a very beginner, maybe a junior drum set. They don't sound that great. You hit them too hard, they would dent. They're really not made for anything else but practice. Now, they still have their place, but you know, when you're getting somebody a drum set that's 8 years old, you're getting them a junior kit. They're not going to hit the cymbals that hard, and even if they do dent the cymbals a little bit, they're not really going to care. So they don't have that much resonance. They have their place. Now we're going to go up to the intermediate cymbals. Now, these are cymbals that you can find very good cymbals. They sound fantastic. They're inexpensive. Now, you can find a lot of junk too in intermediate classifications, and this ranges from, let's say, $40 for, let's say, a 15-inch crash to like, maybe $80 for a 15-inch crash. I would classify like something like a Sabian B8 or what is those Z series Zildjians. I would classify those as intermediate cymbals. Now, there's a company called Stag. They're in Europe. I think they're a UK company. I could be mistaken. I haven't done my research on, though I do have 2 cymbals from them, and you can find those on eBay for like, I got one that was a beautiful 16-inch crash. It's an intermediate cymbal. It polishes high gloss. It looks just like a vintage Zildjian cymbal when it's polished. Actually, I'll show it to you. There you go. Sounds awesome. It's like $48 with shipping on eBay. Now, talking about intermediate cymbals. What do I use for hi-hats? Well, I usually use Zildjian New Beats when I gig with, and those are like a very durable, rugged type of hi-hat. They're professional grade. They're expensive. They're like $300, $400, well, they might be $500 now, $600, depending on what era they came from. And if you want a really inaffordable Power Beats, Canadian-made cymbal, you can get a pair of these on like a classified site for like, I think I bought mine. I've got like 3 pairs of them. I think I bought them for like between $25 and $35. And they're an excellent cymbal. They're nice and thin. They have a beautiful crisp sound to them. And any of my recordings on this channel, you hear me play, I'm using Power Beat hi-hats. I'm not even using, any of my professional grade cymbals because I like the way they sound. And, I've got my other cymbals packed away in my gig rig. So, all right. So let's go up to professional grade cymbals. Now, the newer professional grade cymbals, they sound okay. They sound good, but they might not last as long as you think they're going to. So this, I don't know, this is a 16-inch thin crash. Avitas A-Series maybe cost me, I don't know, $250. I loved it when I heard it in the music store, and I bought it, brought it on tour with me, and made it like 5 gigs. And it cracked, and it sounds terrible, and I don't want to throw it out. So that brings me to Zildjian K-Series. Now, these sound great. Not as good as the gold standard of cymbals, but they do sound very good. These are on lots of recordings. Zildjian Ks are on tons of professional recordings. Tons of pro guys gig with these. They're a durable cymbal. This, I don't know, it's like $400 brand new or something like that. I bought this by the way, I don't buy any of my, that cymbal that was cracked is I think the only brand new cymbal I ever bought. It might have been my second brand new cymbal I ever bought. But the new ones don't have that sound, and I'm going to talk about that sound in a second. These ones are great, and this one's like a dark 18-inch crash. And when I have my cymbals, I like to have my main cymbal that I use off my hi-hat for when I'm doing hi-hat work. It has a beautiful high-end shimmery sound. 17-inch thin crash. That's the one you see right behind me right there. That's what I like to have. And then I like to have a dark sounding crash that I have on top of that. Now, on this particular kit that I play all the time in my videos, that has a 20-inch ride. And I crash on that, and I crash on my 17. And if I want something that has a very dark, quick overtone, I have my China Boy. So I think it's very important that you have different sounding cymbals. Like, even though some guys do this, I don't particularly like the way this sounds. However, I've heard other guys do it, and it still sounds good. That's their choice, but this is just my own prerogative. I would never get a cymbal that would be like a 17-inch crash and a 17-inch crash, both from Zildjian, or both from Sabian, or both from Stag, or both from Pasty, that is the exact same one, because I don't want to crash on this crash over here. I want to be able to crash here and have the exact same sounding crash. You could do that. I know guys that do that. They're great players. But for me, I want to have variety. I want to have every cymbal. I want to have a different voicing in the cymbal. Now, that brings me to my fourth level of cymbal, and I would call them the golden era of cymbals. And those are vintage Zildjian from 1960 to 1970, before the Zildjian Sabian split. Now, these are vintage Zildjians. Absolutely any drummer that has ever played on vintage Zildjian cymbals knows that there is something golden about that. They have a particular sound that modern day cymbals just cannot replicate. That type of John Bonham sound that you hear, a lot of like the fantastic cymbal sound from the Rolling Stones, Charlie Watts played on. Like, he still tours to this day with the same cymbals he played on when he first came here from Britain. He talks about that in several interviews, that he still has the same ride that he's had he's played in every show, every tour that they've ever done, except this China Boy that he crashes on. He goes through about one of those a show. He said they don't last very long. But there's something very special about the vintage Zildjian cymbals that the Turkish cymbal makers of that time seemed to really nail down, that were absolutely perfect. You can hear all my recordings. All my crash work is on the 17-inch thin crash. You'll hear me crash on the ride that I have right off there, right over there. That's a 20-inch vintage Zildjian from the 70s. And they have, not only do they have this shimmery, perfect, warm sound that you can't get in modern day cymbals, they're absolutely indestructible. It's really hard to break them. You can't, I've never actually had a vintage Zildjian break on me. That one I've had for 36 years. I've had that cymbal 36 years, and prior to that, my uncle had it, I think, for about 20 years previous to that, and it wasn't a brand new cymbal when he bought it either. So my very favorite cymbal to record with, to work with, to have anything of a cymbal accent or long crash or ride is definitely a vintage Zildjian. However, you can find fantastic sounding cymbals of all different levels of the top three. You can find intermediate cymbals. So don't get too depressed or discouraged that you don't have that type of golden era sounding cymbal, when you can find great sounding cymbals in their intermediate class. You just got to look for them, and if you like the sound, you like the way they sound when you play them, there's nothing wrong with that. I know tons of guys that I've heard over the years. They had a beautiful drum kit, cast iron hoops, all these expensive, top of the line H series Sabians all the way around, big, huge kit. They can't play. They don't sound great. And the guys I know in my city, they've been playing like 35, 40 years, that are absolute smoking players. They're playing on an old CB 4 or 5-piece drum set. The drum set's barely worth even $300. And they're playing with, intermediate cymbals, Milan cymbals, bottom line, and they got, they pair of Sabian B8s for hi-hats. Those sound good too. They're cheap, they sound good. And it's how you choose to use the voicing. on cymbals. That's probably what I'm trying to get at. It's how you use the voicing of your cymbals when you play that actually makes them sing. So I hope this video helps anybody out there. If you don't have a whole bunch of money to spend, you don't need vintage Zildjian, although if you can spend it, there's nothing that beats them, but there's lots of other options out there. Okay, guys, hope you have a great day. Keep practicing, keep playing. We'll see you in the next video.